Okay, you're listening to the Retro Inc. podcast. I'm Andy S, and with me is Adam S.
Good evening.
Good evening,
welcome
mate.
to our new podcast.
It is brand new, isn't it? So, what's this going to be about? Mostly is it's retro, but it's a retrospective on everything, isn't it? More geek culture, pop culture, everything we're really into, I suppose, isn't it?
Retro meaning sort of back in the day, 70s, 80s, 90s, early and 2000s, and retrospective as in what we saw yesterday. So it's a retrospective and it's retro.
Well, anything more than a minute old is retro, I suppose, isn't it?
Well, yeah. I mean, these days, vintage is 25 years old, isn't it? So
it's so scary, isn't it, when you put it into context with things like that.
Yeah. You know, it's Zucker's forlorn, mate, all that stuff. And so, but this is what it's all about, really. It's just chatting around about what we're into, what we're playing, what we're watching, what new tech gadgets are out that are a must for the man cave.
Yeah. And yeah, like you say, anything tech really, isn't it, as well? Science, tech, nature. Love it all. Anything by Elon Musk lately.
He loves his Teslas.
I don't know if you saw his recent tweet about he came out and said that he was working on what was it, a bionic dragon, and yeah, to which somebody tweeted back to him saying, well, if it's bionic, surely that means it's part animal, so you've already got the dragon bit sussed.
Right, it must have. That's about as nutty though as NASA sending a helicopter to Mars.
I did see that as well, yeah.
Yeah, which is baffling, that, isn't it?
Yeah, isn't it heavier than atmosphere or something? I didn't look into the nitty gritty, but yeah, I think he did say Elon Musk turned around and said that it's a niche in the market that's not yet been cornered, so he's bang on it. So
he's cornered the market completely.
You never know. In 5 years, we could all have bionic dragons. So
indeed.
I mean, I'm all up for that.
I've got a client who not just has designed a moon base, but has designed the moon base.
Wow.
I mean, it's just, we can get into that kind of stuff another time. That's for a whole new podcast.
You're rubbing shoulders with the greats there, aren't you? Yeah.
Oh yeah. Absolutely.
Great stuff. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think that's a bit about the podcast. How about a little bit about us? Why don't you tell us the sort of the things you got in, how you got into geek culture and how you found this world.
Well, I think all mine starts before Star Wars in 1977, really. I was pretty obsessed with Jerry Anderson, Thunderbirds, Joe 90, Captain Scarlet. And on the TV back then, the Batman TV series as well as Thunderbirds was on. I was completely captivated by Adam West and Burt Ward. And the toys, of course. I mean, we had, a blue Thunderbird 2 as a toy, but a green one on the TV series. So it gave you that kind of, this is real, this is not real. And obviously a very vulnerable kid, you're just watching all this stuff thinking, this is incredible.
Yeah.
And then, you started getting the little collection of Batman cars and the Thunderbird toys. And then that summer of 1977, it happened.
And it never stopped.
For me then, when that release happened, I was completely and utterly obsessed with Star Wars. And obviously Luke and Han became my idols. And Christmas, the toys started coming, birthdays, paper round money. We just went on figures and vehicles. I've collected the toys ever since. I'm still a big, prolific sort of vintage Star Wars figure collector. Battlestar Galactica TV series gave me my sort of sci-fi fix, along with Beyond the Stars movie and Black Hole and Tron, E.T., Close Encounters, Space 1999, Blake 7. And then the video games started, the little Nintendo Game & Watch, which was pretty big back then, along with Asteroids handheld Space Invaders, the Atari, playing Empire Strikes Back on that, and Defender in the arcade.
Right.
And the Star Wars arcade machines, and I regularly bought all the Marvel, Star Wars weekly, monthly, and Marvel comics. Recent years, I've been a collector of Marvel omnibuses, and which collect the entire runs of a story arc. Like, for example, you might get the Joe Kelly run of Deadpool, or you might get the Stan Lee and early Spider-Man comics all in one complete omnibus, and DC as well. And I love everything, mate.
Fantastic.
Sci-fi
Fantastic, mate.
and fantasy, yeah. Game of Thrones, you know. And yourself, big
Me,
boy. Yeah.
Well, yeah. Unfortunately, I wasn't one of the lucky ones like yourself to be around for the inception of Star Wars. I wish I was, and to be there at that time and to witness it firsthand. But I grew up with it, and I think that's where I got my love for this, was when I was born in '83, so the year Jedi came out, and my brother's a couple of years older than me. So by the time we got the toys and everything like that, they were hand-me-downs. And I got given those toys, and I grew up with them from a really early age, and I had them all the way through my life up until an unfortunate event happened, and they were disposed of.
What year was that when you actually got into? What was the first Star Wars movie you watched?
I remember my first memory of watching Star Wars was, like, actual memory. I'm sure I probably watched something beforehand, but my first memory of it was the Yoda death scene. Spoiler, sorry. The Yoda death scene.
Yeah, but how old were you then?
I must have been 6.
Okay,
so
6 years old. So before that, what was in your toys? What was your
He-Man? I had He-Man in there.
Thundercats?
Yeah, lots of Thundercats. But I was in sort of the Mighty Max and things like that when I was a kid. That's when they started to come out. So I had the Mighty Max Mountain, a lot of the smaller sets and things like that. But yeah, I mostly spent my life growing up playing with Star Wars toys. And that's because they were handed down to me from my brother. And they kind of got played with He-Man and Panthro and everyone else that joined the mix. But yeah, that's the toy side of it. I mean, they're the things I remember having as a kid. I had Boglins as well, and the little Monster in My Pocket. Do you remember them?
I do, yeah, just about, yeah.
I've still got all of them. But yeah, so I had all of them. But that's the thing. I got into this, like I say, really early age. My dad was, until he retired, a computer programmer, a computer IT tech supporter as well. And when I was a kid, I remember playing on his laptop, and I'm talking this big, huge laptop. It wasn't, like the nice little things we have here now. It's desktop sized, and it was in orange and black was the screen. You didn't have colour on it. And I remember starting games up in DOS from about age 3. So I was like CD-Run / Prince of Persia, and I remember doing that from a young age. Then I remember one day when he brought home from work 2 big, and they took up the whole dining room table, these 2 big computers with 16 colours. It was amazing. I was looking at Prince of Persia, and it looked real, and I was just like, wow, this is phenomenal. So I was kind of bought into that.
That was all the bits and bytes days, though, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was crazy. I mean, I grew up with, more for me, I think I got into this kind of, this niche and this culture through gaming more than anything at a young age. And I have more of a love for retro gaming than I have for modern gaming.
So was there many video cassettes in the house at that point, or?
Wow, my house was full of video cassettes. Yeah, to be honest, I wish I still had some of them, because I like watching the old adverts from the 80s and things like that. I think it adds a certain magic to it when you're watching something back. You've recorded Empire off TV, and you've got an Ariston advert in the middle of it. There's just something about that that captures that era, that magic of that time.
And always the same voiceover guy as well. It was a time of war. It was a time of peace. It was a lone crusader. It was always the same guy with that really deep voice, wasn't it?
So what down seemed a lot more heavy then, didn't it?
Yeah, they did indeed. So in the collection, what seemed to sort of, what was there that you thought, fancy watching that? What did your dad have that you thought, quite fancy watching that? And then it became... Yeah,
it's strange, because me and my dad, we had a strange relationship when I was growing up. We didn't really get on. He was very football orientated, and I wasn't. I was much more sit indoors behind my Commodore 64 and my Amiga and play games. But as I've grown older, we've got a lot more in common, and I think I had that when I was a kid, but we didn't realise it at the time, because my interests in movies and film and TV are exactly the same as his. Growing up, it was always, like you say, Logan's Run. It was bloody hell, it's escaped me now.
Buck Rogers, 21st Century.
Yeah, what's the one with Bruce Dern?
Battlestar Galactica.
Going through space. Silent Running. That's it. Silent Running. You know, films like that. Growing up,
what a
I
movie.
watched them, and that was because of my dad, and they were the things that I watched a lot when I was growing up. Like you say, Black Hole was one of them. And I grew up Tron, everything you've kind of gone over
The
there.
Last Starfighter.
Last Starfighter is one of the greatest movies ever made, you know, and these were the things I grew up on was 80s sci-fi, and that was my dad. And even now I go to the cinema mostly with him to watch these sort of films because they're in the same wheelhouse. But yeah, I mean, I grew up, I think there was a lot more influence from him than I gave credit for at the time. And a lot of that was gaming, you know, my favourite games are point and click adventures from the 80s. We're talking the original Space Quest, like 1, 2 and 3, Monkey Island. And I even remember him letting me play Leisure Suit Larry. And the rule was if I could answer those questions to get into that game, I could play it. So, you know.
That's not a game I'm aware of at all.
Leisure Suit Larry, it's not for kids. But my dad was quite
Hardcore Henry. I don't know who Hardcore Henry is. But Leisure Suit Larry? Nah.
Leisure Suit Larry.
He sounds like a porno star.
Well, Leisure Suit Larry is by Sierra, the people who did Space Quest, King's Quest and all them.
Yes,
right. It's about this guy called Larry Lazard, who is a suave, you know, tries to be suave, lounge suit wearing scumbag. And the game starts off with him basically trying to get some. And that's the idea of the game. You go around this hotels and casinos and strip clubs and places like that. It's not for kids, but it was one of those things. It was a product of the time. And right now, I mean, they did make a Leisure Suit Larry game back on the original Xbox.
Did they?
Called Magna Cum Laude. It's all full of innuendo and double entendre and that. And yeah, it was
he sounds much more lame as a character for a game like that than Jet Set Willy. I mean,
he was supposed to be like
for a game, Jet Set Willy, you know, he sounds like the kind of character that should be doing that kind of stuff.
Yeah, well, that was the thing with Larry. It was all about he was a loser. That was the point of it. You didn't want to empathise with this character. You just didn't like him. But yeah, I mean, he let me play things like that because it was a case of if you can do it, then you go for it. And I remember even growing up, you know, when you come downstairs at night time and you shouldn't be, you know, I remember coming downstairs one night and, I can't remember how old it was, but Dusk Till Dawn had just come out on Sky and we sat down and he was watching it and he was like, come on, don't tell your mum, you can sit and watch this. And we started watching it and it was, you know, and then all of a sudden, 3/4 of the way through the film, it happens and, yeah, he was like, well, I don't know what this is. I thought we was watching a gangster movie. like, holy cow. Yeah, so, you know, but covered my eyes at certain points and stuff like that. So he was always kind of influencing me and allowing me to get into this sort of, you know, these sort of things. And I don't begrudge him that, and I didn't turn out to be, that bad. So
no,
I suppose,
you know. I think, to be honest, as well, he probably showed you a movie with probably the greatest twist of all time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it has to be, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh, it is.
How can you get two complete opposite movies in one film? It's got the greatest twist.
And do you know what? I think this is part of my problem with modern, it's kind of hypocritical to say it while I'm doing a podcast. But the way things are now with social networking and podcasts and stuff like that, how it can ruin things for you. You hear spoiler warning thrown about left, right and centre now, and we never used to have that, and the reason for it was because nobody cared and nobody knew. And
I think
the only
I
way you
first
found
became...
out is if you shouted out in the middle of the cinema.
Yeah.
You know?
I think I first became aware of a spoiler was when I was down in the London Tube, and there was a poster for Usual Suspects, and there was an arrow above one of the characters, and it said, "It's him." And that was the first time I think I was ever aware of what a spoiler is.
Yeah.
And
I'll give you that, because I think the first time I was aware was The Sixth Sense, because I found out about that twist before I'd seen the movie.
Oh, did you?
And someone said to me, they went, "Oh, I can't believe, you know, blah, blah." Oh, I don't know why I'm skirting around it now, but, you know, I can't believe this. And I was like, mate, you know, like, I haven't seen this yet. what are you doing to me? So yeah,
it's a very clever little trick that directors do when they're showing a perspective of death. They'll always pan up from the body.
Yeah.
And once you've got that, you know exactly where things are going.
Yeah, totally.
Another little trick they do these days as well is where you've got your full screen, and then suddenly it will go to 16.9 for a dream sequence, and you're not aware that it's a dream, and then the black lines of the widescreen then become full again. And you're like, I just noticed that. Maybe this is not happening. This happened in a recent film called It Happens at Night.
Oh, right, okay.
And I've probably just spoiled that movie there just by telling you that. But so yeah. So from that time, we're talking 1983, are we? When you first watched Star Wars?
No, I was born in 83.
You was born in 83.
Yeah, so I probably watched Star Wars about 86. That's the thing. You know, I was always allowed to watch stuff. You know.
So I would say in 83, I just got a ZX Spectrum.
Wow.
Maybe it was a ZX81 and then a Spectrum, and then I got a 64.
Yeah.
Commodore 64. My friend, he had a BBC microcomputer, and I didn't like the look of that. It was a very large computer.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
And there was my little rubber button thing. But yeah, that was my first thing. But my games console was the Atari, the classic Atari console, which
I never had one. I wish I did.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, isn't it? We've got a good 10. I've got a good 10 years on you, so
yeah.
There are those sort of things. But I didn't get this. I wasn't a He-Man or Master of the Universe, or any of that kind of stuff. Or even Tamagotchi and those sort of things. That was
that was out of my era as well. But I think you hit the nail on the head there. I think you go through a stage with your fandom, don't you? Because there was a time when I was so the special editions come out in 97, was it?
Indeed, yeah.
97. Mm-hmm. So at that time I was 14.
Right.
And when those special editions come out, I remember queuing up at Rochester Cinema with my dad. Mm-hmm. We was there for the midnight tickets going on sale, because back then we didn't really have the internet to get them. So we was down there getting our tickets for the next day to go there at 9:00 in the morning to watch these remastered Star Wars, because I was like, this is the first time I'm going to get to see Star Wars at the cinema, and it may never happen again. And so, we queued there. I met Chewie. We did an interview for the newspaper and stuff like that. And that was my fandom. I was 14 then. But then I saw them. I watched the prequels as they came out. Now at the time, we're getting to the prequels another time, I know we will. I enjoyed them because I was 17 years old. But then I kind of fell out of my fandom for a while. And that wasn't because Star Wars did me wrong, because in hindsight, I still enjoy the prequels for other reasons. Again, I'm not going to go into that now. But I fell out of my fandom. It wasn't like I stopped enjoying it. Is I had other things in my life to do. I was living with 4 of my friends in a house share. I was making music. I was making money. I was having fun. And I kind of fell out of it for a little while. And then, I settled down. I have a wife, and I find these great websites and these people and these podcasts, and it all starts to build back up again. And, over the last sort of 2-3 years, I've got a room now in my house dedicated to Star Wars. I've got all my my retro games console sitting there on a shelf, and I'm slowly building up collections on them. And not only that, I've got a kid now, and I get to try and push that onto them.
Yeah, Indeed.
I got the PlayStation 2 out the other day, and I sat her down and was playing SpongeBob on it. She's like, "Wow, what's this?" And I'm like, "Yeah, kids, one day I'll show you the real stuff. When you can use a mouse, I'll get Monkey Island out, and you can really enjoy real gaming." Because I don't want her to get into this new stuff, because it's terrible, most of it. Not all of it, most of it. All right.
Well, indeed, there's nothing wrong with Minecraft, and I think there are some cracking games for kids. Yeah. My son now is 12, and I introduced him to A New Hope, episode 4. Nice. And I went through those films in the correct order, and then the prequels. My son was born in 2005, so he watched, that year was Revenge of the Sith, I think, wasn't it? It's alright?
Yeah.
So he came out, he was born that year. He loves them. And he's a big Marvel MCU fan. And anything now on the Xbox, he's loving. And I'm living my childhood now through him again, to be honest.
Yeah, that's it.
I mean, my room's got, I've got my vintage Star Wars toys out. I've had to actually put so much stuff. I have to put so much stuff in the loft. I can't introduce him to Dredd yet. It's too old for that. Doesn't really get the sort of irony of Dredd and Judge Dredd.
You've got this whole plethora of stuff.
But it's coming,
in the coming years, haven't you? That's the beauty of it.
Yeah, I was a bit gutted when he said I don't really like Batman. That was difficult because I was desperate to show him the Nolan films, but I don't think he's quite ready for that yet.
They are very dark, aren't they?
Yeah. I had the first experience with my daughter watching a sci-fi film, I suppose, at Christmas when I wanted on New Year's Eve. I wanted to show her E.T.
Nice.
And she looked at me sort of halfway through the film and said, "Why are you crying?" And I looked at her and thought, "Well, why aren't you crying?"
No, I give you credit there because I understand that because we went to see E.T. last summer and it was a cinema in the park, at the park in the town near us. And the film that night was E.T. and we took her down there, we got the chairs out, we sat there, and bless her heart, my little one, she's quite sensitive. And when E.T. was ill, the tears came and it was so sad. I saw her heart literally break as this little lady was laying there dying, and it was sad, but it was beautiful. So I get where you're coming from there, because
it's a beautiful thing when that happens to yourself, but you hope that your children are going to be involved in that same emotion. I actually saw my son today have a little tear. We went to go and see Infinity War for the third time. Well, we've seen it already once in the cinema and twice through other means. And there was two moments when the tears came. One was very euphoric and one was very sad.
Yeah.
But it's always wonderful to see your children fully involved in that film and really feeling the emotions.
Yeah, totally.
But we're enjoying lots of retro stuff right now together. So this is part of the beauty of this podcast is we can talk about all things retro and just sort of see where our interests are now influencing our kids, and we're just sort of saying to them, "Oh, just come and check this out. I've got something I want to show you." And one of the things that I want to just have a chat with you about is something called Battlestar Galactica 1980.
Oh, it's got to be 80. Yeah, no, I'll give you that. Yeah.
So this obviously is when Boxy becomes an adult.
Yeah.
And the great thing about this is it's their descent to Earth. And with time running out and the Cylons closing in on the trail, Commander Adama and his Galactica must work harder than ever before to keep the Earth from being taken over by the Cylons. It's got Dirk Benedict and Brian James, Dennis Haysbert, and it's just fantastic. And we're absolutely loving the series.
Right.
And it's in 133.1 full frame, so it's very much of that time, not on the script, but it's still great. I mean, some of the effects are very much, as they were of Buck Rogers and A New Hope. The way the ship's flying and there's that sort of colour hue around the ship, But overall, just fabulous to sort of say, look, I watched this when I was 10.
But that's great.
Now 12, he's really enjoying it.
But he's getting that same enjoyment out of it.
Yes, love it.
I think you notice it when there's this. We're going to hark back to Star Wars a lot. I know, me and you are. But Star Wars is one of those things of a similar ilk with Battlestar. It has something. I don't know what that something is. It has something. It doesn't matter. It's timeless. You can show someone something from that era. Space 1999 is an example. It's great, but I think nostalgically for us, it's great.
They don't get it.
We enjoy it at all. But they don't get it now. BSG has something, the same as Star Wars, where I think if you show that to someone, you have to say to them, ignore the special effects. Just ignore those inconsistencies and watch it for what it is. And there's something magical about it.
I think if you're going to go back, you've got E.T., Close Encounters, Battle Beyond the Stars. You've got The Last Starfighter and Black Hole. And those movies as in terms of science fiction, you can give that to a kid of 10 now.
Yeah.
And they'll get the gist of the story. Mm. They'll love the special effects. And you think, well, this was the time of The Empire Strikes Back. All this sort of stuff was out there. Mm. And it's wonderful, but there is still a lack, I think, of good TV. I mean, mainstream TV sci-fi. Doctor Who's still on, but I don't think that's for every kid.
Do you know, I think my biggest problem with modern TV, and this is another conversation for another time as an entirety, I think, is the cash cow side of it.
Yes,
Back when they used to make things like BSG, they had a story. Yeah, you had some filler episodes in there, but they had a story and they were getting to it. I was really into Arrow and then into The Flash when that came out. The Flash is, as you can see by my glasses, big Flash fan. Watched the first season, brilliant. Watched the second season, and I'm thinking, alarm bells start ringing here. Hang on, they haven't got a plan in place here. The plan they've got is to see as many dollar bills as they can appear on that bank balance for them.
Do you think when they started running out of ideas that we start getting the crossover episodes?
Well, you have in The Flash and Arrow anyway, haven't you? And that was part of my
and
problem.
Supergirl.
Yeah, and Supergirl. And
and Legends of Tomorrow.
Legends of Tomorrow, which is atrocious.
Well, do you think Fox are going to? It's not Fox, sorry. Do you think they're going to?
CW, isn't it? Yeah.
CW. You think they're going to renew their contracts? I think there's a few series they're dropping.
We should do a DC podcast here because that's something. I was a defender of DC when Man of Steel came out. I loved it. I loved Man of Steel. It
is beautiful. It's a masterpiece.
Do you know why I like it? Because I don't like Superman.
It's a masterpiece.
Yeah.
It's a masterpiece. And I don't think people really get just how good a film it is. No, it's produced by Nolan, so it has that little edge and some fantastic shots.
And I love Snyder's directing. I don't care what
beautiful,
people say
man.
about the guy.
Beautiful.
He's brilliant. Watchmen.
It's beautiful.
Fantastic.
It's beautiful.
But I was always a defender of DC when they started this new DC, or whatever you want to call it. And I was like, no, it's going to be good. It's going to be good. And then they made, so what you had Man of Steel, and then it was, what was next? Batman, Superman, wasn't it?
BVS, yeah.
Yeah.
Which the ultimate cut is a masterpiece.
It's a great film. It's a great film.
Honestly,
I was podcasting somewhere else at the time, and we did a midnight showing of it, came out, and we watched that, and we did a podcast straight after we watched it. It was 2, 3 in the morning. We're sitting there recording, and we was buzzing. We was buzzing off of it, and I was like, that was what I wanted to see. And I mean, that wasn't even like you say, that wasn't even the director's, the
ultimate cut. Mm-hmm.
And I was like, this was great. And when that happened, I was like, I'm stoked. I know DC have got this in the bag now. They know what they're doing. And then they made Suicide Squad, and I was like, right, okay, I'll let them have a failing here. It's not as important to everything. And I quite like Jared Leto as the Joker. I thought I can get behind this. So, I like the direction they're going with him. I can see.
But it wasn't Zack again, was it? No, the direction was.
But then I argued this point with some people that were naysaying them, and I was like, look at Marvel. Look at Marvel. They've done all these films. They're not all perfect. They're not all perfect at all in any. Look at Thor. A lot of people don't like it. I enjoy it, but then I don't like Iron Man. You're allowed not to like something. You don't have to like something because other people do, and because somebody else likes it, you don't have to like it as well. It's the prequels all over again. I enjoy them. A lot of people don't like them. So what, right? There's bits I don't like, but it doesn't stop me from enjoying the other bits. And that's what I was looking at DCEU going, okay, great. So Suicide Squad happened. I was like, okay, maybe you've shaken me a little bit here. And then they made Justice League.
I think Suicide Squad was the Watchmen of these recent DC movies. I think it was just a little on the edge of overindulgence and trying a little bit too hard. and I think we'd seen enough of portals for one day opening up in the sky, and that for me was the disappointment, actually. Yeah. But overall, I loved the way that we had the introduction to each character. It felt very comic book-like, fantastic soundtrack.
I think their biggest problem was the marketing.
The market was
this neon, over the top, and then we've got this dark, dingy movie.
But to be honest, there's nothing wrong with the film in terms of generally, there's nothing wrong with it. I think if you just look a little bit too deeply at it and you start breaking it down, it has faults.
Yeah, it does have faults. But then, like I say, they made Justice League, and I can't. I don't know if you enjoy Justice League, but for me, that was it. That was the point where I'm like, I think DC have really screwed the pooch here. They haven't. I think their biggest issue is they've got the directors, they've got the stories, they've got the characters, they've got. I mean, Aquaman is the best version of Aquaman I've ever seen. I don't want to see a guy in green spandex with yellow wire fronts. It wouldn't work in this day and age. It wouldn't work. It wouldn't look right. I love the way they update them. I've always said, a friend of mine always said as well, that Batman's played by, Batman is three people. You're playing the Bruce Wayne persona, you're playing Bruce Wayne, and you're playing Batman. Mm-hmm. Not many people have done that right, and I do honestly think that Affleck has. I think Affleck has done a good job as Batman. I think
if you watch the Nolan movies, and then you watch Man of Steel, and then BVS, I think Affleck is essentially an older Batman. He is an older Bruce Wayne, and he's literally got that role perfect.
Yeah, he's got that sardonic, done with the world kind of attitude.
Yeah. He's nailed it. I mean, Wonder Woman is a fantastic movie. Fantastic movie.
I couldn't get on with it, and I don't know if that was because I didn't actually finish it, so I can't make a judgment call on that because I never finished it. So it's not fair for me to turn around and say I didn't enjoy it because I never finished it. So I have got to get round to watching that again. But I just think DC are lacking direction. Where Marvel have spent 10 years, 18 movies, 10 years. They're crafting this world. I think we're going to segue onto our next thing here, aren't we?
We probably are. Yeah.
But they've spent 10 years crafting this world. DC, I feel, are scrambling. They're going, right, what can we do? What can we do? They didn't need to do Justice League this early. Justice League needed to be done in 5 or 6 years' time. That's what they needed to do. They needed to build these characters. We don't need origin stories for Batman. We're cool with that. But what we needed was them to turn around and do Aquaman first. We needed Wonder Woman. That it speaks for itself. Like I say, I haven't seen it, but everyone seems to love it. They needed to build their world a little bit more before DC jumped and did Justice League. I think they really missed a trick there with that. And have they ruined it for the future?
I don't know. I think they're going to have to get Snyder back on board. I think.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that was unfortunate circumstance.
I mean, they've got
so you can never.
Indeed. I mean, they've got the two Jeffs involved, haven't they, at the head of DC, haven't they? They've got Jeff Loeb writing, and Jeff Johns.
Yeah.
So there's no problem there. Those guys know their stuff. But now we're going to go towards Infinity War. And the 10 years building up to this movie and just seeing how each film, okay, we've got the two Hulks.
Yeah.
Okay, the first one on its own, okay, it was alright. Okay, it was a bit of a green, jelly Hulk, but if and I've completely forgotten the name of the bloody actor now from the second.
There was Eric Bana did the Ang Lee one.
Yes.
And it was Edward Norton.
Ed
Norton.
He was difficult to work with, wasn't he, apparently? So that's why.
Was it Feige turned around and said, see you later, wasn't it? I think that was.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But each movie has got better, more interesting. Mm-hmm. It's got more intense. There's been more comic humour. There has been a better casting. it's just got more flavour, more
without a doubt.
colour.
And I think, should we jump to Infinity War here? Because I think this is the perfect point for it, because what you're saying here is so true about fandom. Like I was saying about you falling in and out of love with it. We had all the Iron Mans, we had the Thors, and there was one or two films I kind of enjoyed in that mix. Right, there was one or two, you know. And then Guardians came out, and now I was working in the cinema, and I saw that a couple of days before anyone else, because we got the hands on it, and we went and watched it, and I sat there at 3:00 in the morning, and I was ecstatic.
Gobsmacked.
Yeah, I was like,
yeah,
Marvel, and I was just like, well done, you've done it, you've nailed it. And since then, they've just got better and better. And I was at that point just before Guardians. I was like, am I done with this? I'm getting a bit bored with these films. That we're getting number 2 and number 3, number 2 and number 3. And then I watched Guardians and I was like, wow. And then I saw Doctor Strange was the next one after that really in my head was like, okay, they're onto something here. And then I saw Thor Ragnarok, right? I haven't seen Black Panther yet. I've acquired it through means. But I saw Thor Ragnarok, and I don't think I've laughed so hard at a movie in years. And I was in that cinema, and there was a guy, you know, doing that audible, over the top, like, wah, 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 proper belly laughing. And do you know what? It didn't bother me, because every single one of those laughs was justified that he was doing. And when I come out of Thor Ragnarok, I was like, I am one of the biggest Marvel fans I know now. This has totally thrown me back into that. And you know how I am with Star Wars. We're in certain groups together and places.
absolutely, yeah.
I was more excited for Infinity War than I am for Solo. And yeah, it was good, wasn't it?
I think one of the reasons why I think that excitement is there is because we've had 10 years of films.
Yeah.
Whereas with Star Wars, we get one. We've had massive droughts.
The Dark
But
Times.
let's just look at
before
the Dark Times. Let's just look at Guardians for a second. I mean, you've got Chris Pratt, who has got great comic timing,
Yeah.
along with Bradley Cooper as well. His voice is absolutely spot on for Rocket.
Mm-hmm.
You've got the marvelous Vin Diesel doing Groot, and that voice is just perfect for Groot. I mean, I remember reading Guardians of the Galaxy when it came out as a comic book series, and I wasn't that particularly interested, but I've become extremely in love with both Volume 1 and 2. I mean, Dave Bautista and Zoe Saldana, who's a fantastic actress. You've got Michael Rooker, who's fantastic, and Karen Gillan, who's amazing, and Benicio del Toro, and Glenn Close. I mean, that movie has got a great cast.
And don't forget Darth Maul himself is in that as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then you go into Guardians Volume 2, and you've got more colour, you've got another amazing soundtrack. A fantastic soundtrack.
And Kurt Russell,
Sylvester Stallone in there as well. It's just...
It continues, yeah.
It's just incredible. And Gunn has done a brilliant director's job. Now, in that time, if we now look at what came out in the DC universe, you had Batman Killing Joke animation.
Yeah.
Nice, quiet little bit of a pause, awkward pause.
Yeah.
And you've had, what else was there in DC at that particular time? Was there anything else? No, there wasn't. No. There was just Suicide Squad, and it's really very poor.
Yeah, it is a poor show on their behalf.
I don't think they're in any competition, to be honest, anymore. But yeah, again, if we look at those Thor movies, I mean, Ragnarok is a class apart.
Yeah.
Dark World, well, it had its moments, but
it's emo Thor, isn't it? Like,
essentially, it's the middle section of a dream.
Thor having a bad time.
Yeah.
And you kind of get it.
But Branagh did a great job directing Thor.
Oh, yeah. I don't think there was anyone better for the job, to be honest with you. I think he understands the gravitas of doing such a story, and the because it's myth, isn't it? I mean, if you're talking about myth, and this is a guy that's a thespian that's stage. He knows how to tell a story of, a quite antiquated story, and he does it perfectly, doesn't he? I mean.
But I mean, those guys at Marvel, if they're sitting down and they're going, right, okay, we've got Doctor Strange, we want to bring into this. Any ideas for the lead character? Well, that Benedict Cumberbatch is quite good. Oh my God!
Yeah.
He's Doctor Strange.
Yeah, I don't know who does this casting, but I tell you what, they do it so right, don't they?
I know, I think we should use Tilda Swinton as well. Oh my God, she's amazing, she's perfect. Yeah. It just, what a fantastic cast. Oh. Yeah. Benedict Wong as well, and Rachel McAdams. Yeah. Just phenomenal movie.
Yeah, they've upped their game over the last few years.
Really, you don't want to be taking anything other than maybe a slight percentage of beer during that film, because there is some mind-blowing graphics. I mean, just mind-blowing. I mean, The Matrix, and you've got Inception, that has a little essence of that, and then you watch Doctor Strange, and the people must be looking at it going, how on earth did they do that?
Yeah, it's beautiful. That scene in the city where he first faces what's Mads Mikkelsen's character's name again?
Oh, don't I
always forget. But that, like you say, when the buildings start to turn, and it was phenomenal, and it was actually, I give credit to Doctor Strange. My dad, that was the one thing he's never been into, is superhero movies. He's never really sort of got that. He used to be a massive Green Lantern fan. When he was younger, he got me into that. I read one of the omnibus.
If he's not a great fan of superhero films, perhaps he might like watching Captain America.
Well, this was it. Because
of all the superheroes, Captain America is probably the least of them, really.
Yeah.
Because
he's look at the Winter Soldier, it's a spy thriller.
Absolutely,
it's not a superhero film. The guy just happens to be extra strong. That's the only thing he's got going for him in that.
I mean, I've read the Ed Brubaker run of Captain America, which is basically what they are, which this is all based on, is the Ed Brubaker of Captain America run, and they've cast Chris Evans as that character with just. I mean, again, what a brilliant casting for the guy.
Yeah.
The Russo brothers did an incredible job with Winter Soldier, as they did with Infinity War. One of the things with Infinity War I particularly love was just the way that they cut these scenes together so beautifully that nobody in the cinema got lost and going, where are they going now? What's happening? I've lost the thread. It was so spot on. I mean, this is the third time I've seen it, so I think it flowed much better this third time, and
I mean, had
there
been
still kicked like a mule, and I don't know. I think I can say something without spoiling too much, but I think there's one particular scene with Thor, and when he arrives in this particular scene, I absolutely felt a lump in my throat.
Yeah.
It's really difficult to talk about a movie that's still out without spoiling it for anybody, because it really is. It does have some incredible moments in that movie.
I mean, had it been for not been of technical difficulties, if we'd have had a lot tonight, I'd have been there tonight watching it again. I don't often go to the cinema more than once for something. Star Wars.
This deserves it. This deserves more and more views. As does, I think, Civil War. That deserves a lot of viewings. It's an incredible movie.
Yeah.
Incredible movie.
Yeah. I got to be honest, I'm not big on Iron Man. Now, I like Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man. I like Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man in the films with other people. Homecoming, he was fantastic. But the films bore me a little bit. And I think it's because he seems to have a suit that does everything. And that's starting to wear a little bit thin with me, with the Iron Man thing. It's just like, oh, this is happening, so it's alright, I've got a suit that does that. And he's got that get out of jail clause with his gadgetry. And that's...
Well, he's the Bruce Wayne of the MCU, isn't he, really? He's just got too much money to spend on stuff. I think
that's what that guy says to him, doesn't it? What film is it? What's your superpower? He goes, I'm rich. Yeah.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, I think Iron Man 2 is my favourite of the three. Although there are parts of 3 that are fantastic, but one other thing about the MCU has got another couple of little golden nuggets. Ant-Man, and I'm thoroughly looking forward to Ant-Man and the Wasp, which is due in August, and I think that's going to be an amazing movie.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that too. You seen the new poster for it?
I have indeed, yeah. The trailer looks absolutely awesome.
But let's be honest though. Let's go back 15 years, right? We're back in 2003. Mm-hmm. And someone said to you, in 15 years' time, some of the biggest films on the planet are going to be Marvel, and there's going to be a film that's got a talking tree, a raccoon, Iron Man, and it's going to have Black Panther. Oh, by the way, Black Panther's just had one of the biggest films of all time at this point.
You wouldn't believe it, would you?
You'd go, oh, shut up.
You just wouldn't believe it.
Yeah. There's been no way. I mean, the Black Panther thing alone, there to say that in 2018, one of the biggest films of all time will be Black Panther. You might believe it if someone turned around to you and said, oh, it's a Captain America and Thor and Iron Man. You might go, okay, I can see that. But Black Panther? No, you wouldn't have none of it. Benedict Cumberbatch is going to be with 30 other A-list stars in Infinity War. No, you're ridiculous. What are you talking about? But it's happened, and they've done it so well. So well. And the only thing that leaves me thinking is I can't wait for the next 10 years, because they ain't going to stop this now.
I think the only thing that's going to stop is, unfortunately, these actors who are just going to get a little bit tired of their character, which is a great shame. But what we have imminently coming, I think it's certainly the end of next week, is Deadpool 2. And the amazing Ryan Reynolds as the is again incredible casting, man.
There's no one else. No one else, in my eyes, could do that role justice like he does.
He loves it. And, I read the Joe Kelly run of Deadpool and the Wade run of Deadpool. Both writers wrote Deadpool just perfect. The fourth wall stuff is just absolutely awesome. And this movie, I think, is going to be difficult to watch in terms of the grittiness of the first. If they've kept that sort of very gritty, low budget feel to it, but knowing that there's $200 million behind them, it's going to be, it'll pull off beautifully.
I mean, have you seen any of the test scores for it?
Oh,
yeah.
I mean, I saw the David Beckham.
Where he apologises what for Green Lantern.
Whoever is doing all this stuff for Deadpool.
Well, it was the first one, wasn't it? They promoted it as because I was in the cinema at the time. I was working at the cinema, and how they were promoting the first one as a Valentine's Day movie, as a love story, and I thought that is something.
So genius.
Yeah. Was it? It's Monica. What's her name? Baccarin.
Yes.
And Ryan Reynolds, and it's a lovely wishy-washy sepia picture of the two of them looking at each other, and it's this Valentine's Day, blah blah. I was just like, they're onto something here. This is
when he's laying on the rug, just chilling out, doing his little thing. I mean, whoever is head of marketing there is doing a fantastic job. Yeah. It's just stunning, mate.
And the writing as well, isn't it? It's just the way they. That one of my favourite jokes of the first film is that, when he goes, I'm taking you to see Professor X, he's like, McAvoy or Stewart, I'm not really sure about this timeline. Calling foul to their own shortcomings in the movie. No one else could get away with that, I don't think.
Ryan Reynolds mentioned in a very recent interview that they wrote this majority of the script of this film during the first Deadpool film. Right. So it's going to have a lot of the same feel to it, which I'm so looking forward to. I won't be doing a midnight showing for this film, but certainly that weekend I shall definitely be in my seat. I just hope I don't sit next to someone scoffing popcorn. I mean, that's always the big thing. So we've all today as well during seeing Infinity War, there was the Jurassic World. Fallen World, is it called? Jurassic World? Fallen World?
Fallen Kingdom, isn't it?
Fallen Kingdom. How's that on your radar, mate?
Right. This is the thing. We're going back to this. These our childhoods, right? 1993 was Jurassic Park. Was it 93, 94?
Yeah.
I was 10. Perfect age for me. Dinosaurs. Who doesn't like dinosaurs at age 10? Nobody, right? Everyone loves them. Everyone loves dinosaurs. I grew up with this. Jurassic Park, one of my favourite movies of all time, without a shadow of a doubt.
The nearest thing to dinosaurs was Jabba the Hutt for me. That was about
totally.
as near as I got to it.
It's got the same size arms. But yeah, I grew up with that, and dinosaurs was my thing. I remember seeing that. I was blown away. It's one of those films. It still holds up the test of time. I went to see Jurassic World. Loved it. I thought this is calling. It was The Force Awakens. Now I'm going to make this analogy because a lot of people said, you get those idiots that say, "Oh, it's just a New Hope. It's just a New Hope all over again." It was, but for the same reasons that Jurassic World is Jurassic Park. They're calling foul to those issues they had in the first one. The Empire or the New Order doing what they did the first time, but we're doing it this way now, and it's the same premise of a story. It's the first one, but different. And I loved it. And then I saw the trailer for Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. And the problem I have with this? It looks great, but they've just shown me the movie.
Yeah, it's a very long trailer showing
it
lost
ruined it for me.
Yeah.
I think Joe Public won't pick up on that necessarily, but people like us, me and you, we pick things apart. We talk about it on shows, we talk about it with friends, we talk about it in group chats, and we pull it apart. I've seen that movie now. I've just sat there and watched a 2.5, 3 minute trailer. I can't remember. It felt like an hour. And it ruined it for me. And I can see where they're shoehorning things in. They've got Jeff Goldblum in there. I love him. He is not in that movie for more than 5 minutes, and I would bet my bottom dollar on that. He's in courtroom scenes, warning them not to do certain things.
What's dodgy, I think, when you mentioned that, is that before the trailer today, Jeff Goldblum is standing there saying, "Hi, I'm Jeff Goldblum. And I urge you to go and see Jurassic World, I thought that's a little bit dodgy. It's like when they used to put on the top of the trailer, from the director of.
Yeah.
And you think, well, is that if it works well on its own, why do you need to promote that the film is directed by someone who did another movie? Yeah. Do you think Chris Pratt is a good sort of stand-in for Sam Neill?
Well, it's different, isn't it? You can't compare the two, I don't think. Sam Neill's Sam Neill, isn't he? He's crazy. He's manic, the mouth of madness, Event Horizon. That guy does those eyes, those crazy eyes when stuff's going wrong, and you feel the fear, you feel the panic in him. Whereas Chris Pratt's Chris Pratt. He's laid back, he's chill. Something happens and he'll have a joke about it. And I think they're two different protagonists, and I like that. I like Chris Pratt in them. I just feel like they might be, with this one, I think they might be going a bit too far out of the box with it. I don't know where they're going with this, but this weaponising dinosaurs. I don't know if you ever heard one of the first drafts for Jurassic World was to have hybrid dinosaur human type things on the go. And that got poo-pooed. I was like, no, you can't do that. That's silly.
So the lead actress in Jurassic World, is that Bryce Dallas Howard?
Bryce Dallas Howard, yeah.
So is she the sort of Richard? Is she this? Who is she in terms of the corresponding actor from Jurassic Park? Is there one? Is she the Dickie Attenborough character?
I don't know. I mean, you could call her modern techno Dickie Attenborough, couldn't you? Because I mean, she's got her PDA and she's on the phone, and she's. But I think with the original Jurassic Park, Attenborough, if you really break that film down, is an idiot. Like, he was a man driven by this need, and he didn't know when to stop. He wasn't a good person. He put his own grandchildren in danger without a second thought of anything else apart from this park succeeding.
Is he in the third? Is he in the third one?
Is he in that bit? you don't see him. Is he referenced? Isn't he dying or something? If I'm not mistaken, it's been a long time.
What is that? What's Lost World? Is that the second one?
Lost World is the second one, yeah.
He's definitely in that. So
that might be the one then. Doesn't he die? I think they mentioned he's dead in the third one.
Right, right.
But yeah, I just think it's one of those, you kind of look back and people...
And Julianne Moore was in the second one.
She was.
With Pete Postlethwaite, who's a fantastic actor.
Yeah. I love him. He was great in Romeo and Juliet. He was great in that. But... yeah, I don't know what comparison you can... I don't know if they've actually tried to mirror some characters and modernise them. I think maybe they're just trying to put in archetypes that are quite common these days. I think that's maybe part of the issue with it. There's some sheen, some magic that is definitely not with these new Jurassic Park films that potentially could be there. But then is that because they were, want of a better term again, product of their time? We're talking early 90s here, and the CGI and the effects were mind-blowing. Mind-blowing.
Going back to of its time, we've got another number 2 coming soon, The Incredibles 2. So, in terms of, if we look at Toy Story 1, 2 and 3, by the time you get to 3 and then you watch 1 again, you realise how far things have come in terms of computer graphics. Do you think this Incredibles 2 is going to make Incredibles 1 look a little bit poor in terms of graphics? I mean, are you looking forward to seeing another Incredibles movie?
No, because I didn't enjoy the first one. But what I will say with that is, so I'm an outsider here, because it's not that I didn't enjoy it. I think it's passable. Okay, it's okay film. It's a kids film. It's good. It's okay. It's no Inside Out for me. That film will get to me every time I watch Inside Out, and I will bawl my eyes out like a baby. But I think with Incredibles, I think it's gonna suffer from the Monsters Inc. fate.
Right, yeah, could well do. But I think it'll still be a massive hit, this, I think. It's gonna be
it'll be a hit, but I think what it'll be a hit for is us. I don't think it's gonna appeal to the younger generation as much, because too much time's passed, and this is again what happened with Monsters Inc.
Quite
it was
possibly,
how many years? 10 plus years between Monsters Inc. and Monsters University.
Yeah.
Look at Dory. Look at Finding Nemo and Finding Dory.
That was a flop, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, I'd like to have a flop like that. But
it didn't do particularly well.
For Disney, it doesn't do as well as they hope, and I think Pixar suffers from sequel fatigue. Not the fact that they release too many, is that they release them too late. They need to bring out more original stuff rather than retreads, and I'm fine with that, because I think Pixar are one of the greatest storytelling outfits. I'm a full-grown man that can watch a cartoon and I will bawl my eyes out. I did it in Coco recently. I do it in Inside Out every time it's on. Monsters Inc. has its moments of complete adorable cuteness with Boo.
Moana was pretty much like that.
Moana, well, that's not Pixar, is it? Moana.
Oh no, it's not. That's purely Disney.
But still, it's still Disney. Yeah. Disney, the House of Mouse, and again, Moana is. I mean, that's a staple in our household. My wife and my daughter will probably watch that 2 or 3 times a week, and it's not just because my daughter wants to watch it; it's because my wife does too. And you've got that whole bit at the end with the heart of Te-Fiti going into, and she takes it back, and you suddenly realise the lava monster is actually Te-Fiti and everything, losing her soul, essentially. It's beautiful. They know how to tell a story, these guys. Same with Marvel, same with Star Wars. There's a reason why Disney are this powerhouse they are.
Absolutely, yeah.
I think they suffer with the Pixar films. It's because maybe they take a little bit too long to make. And they've got too many ideas out there. They make one film. Toy Story is a prime example of it. Let's be honest. The best Toy Story film is the first one. Now, it's an exception to the rule of what I'm saying with the rest of them, because they are all very good films. I think number 2 lacked a little. Number 3 raised the bar again. they brought something back there. And I don't know if it was that emotion because of, Andy giving his toys to the little girl and him going off to college. It was a heartbreaking thing. We could empathise with it as adults. You're like, he's giving these toys away, and it's not so much the toys are alive. It's the analogy of that connection the two of them have, those toys of his childhood and him growing up and not needing them anymore, regardless of whether or not they're there. He doesn't need them anymore. He's becoming something else. And then he suddenly realises at the end the joy someone else would get out of that. And this is, I think,
that hits home. That really does hit home.
It does. It's harking back to what we were saying earlier about sharing our childhood with our kids.
Mm.
And that's what Toy Story 3 captured, I think, a little bit there. But The Incredibles 2, I think, will be a big film to start, and I think you'll see a drop-off. I think you'll see a drop-off within the first couple of weeks. Not to say it won't be any good. I can't make that comment because I didn't like the first one that much. I'll watch it. If it's on, someone puts it on, I'm not going to say, turn this off. It's just not my bag. It's not my bag at all. So, you excited for it, I take it?
Well, I think I'll be taking my two to go and see it. Another franchise we've got another movie coming for is Mission Impossible Fallout, which finds Ethan Hunt and his IMF team of Alec Baldwin, Simon Pegg, Ving Rhames, along with some familiar allies in Rebecca Ferguson, Michelle Monaghan, in a race against time after a mission goes wrong. Well, that sounds about right for a Mission Impossible, doesn't it, movie? Any interest in this again?
Yeah, but I don't think it needs to be made. I think with the Mission Impossibles, they progressively got better. I didn't like the first one because I was a purist. I watched Mission Impossible as a kid. And when they turned Phelps into a bad guy, I was done. I was like, what are you doing? You've turned this guy, this model character, this person that I looked up to as a child, you turned him into the bad guy. This isn't okay. What have you done with this? That's like making a Bond film and Q turning around and shooting Bond in the face. Like, what are you doing here? And it really bugged me. And then I learned when I watched Mission Impossible 2, let's not look at this as Mission Impossible. That's just the name. Look at this as a bloody good action film with Tom Cruise, because I love Tom Cruise anyway. I've got a bit of a soft spot for him. He's mental, but I love him. And I watched Mission Impossible 2 and I thought, let's ignore the 30 different tyre changes during the bike chase scene, and let's ignore the over-the-top stuff. This is a really good fun action film, and I think they've progressively got better, and they up those set pieces. You've got the bit in number 4, Ghost Protocol, where he's on the side of the building in Dubai. This is great. This is what I want to see in a movie. He does
about 80% of his stunts as well.
Oh, yeah. I don't know if you ever saw the picture for Rogue Nation.
Yeah,
where he's on the side of the plane.
Yeah, yeah.
And if you actually look, there's one picture on the internet. He is grinning from ear to ear as this is happening. He is loving it. And that's what I like about the guy. He might be mental, but he enjoys it. And I think that comes through in his performance. He wouldn't have done this role for this many years, this many films, without really enjoying that. So that's why I look forward to films like...
Interesting that Mission Impossible became a movie franchise, and yet Man from U.N.C.L.E., which was a huge series. It was Guy Ritchie did that movie, I think, wasn't it? Yeah. Was it Guy Ritchie did that film?
I'm sure it was Guy Ritchie.
Was it Matthew Vaughn?
I'll find out, because if it was Matthew Vaughn, that surprised me,
But either way, that film just didn't hit the mark, did it?
No.
Didn't hit the mark. And that's a shame, because I think that had a bit of longevity to it, really, I think.
It did, yeah. I would like to have seen was it Solo and Ilya Kuryakin, isn't it?
That's right, yeah.
Again, these were the things, because obviously when we were younger, TV didn't have 40-odd channels with a million and one things on it for us to watch. So, we watched reruns. This is what I watched. And
well, Man from U.N.C.L.E. was on, I think it may have been a Saturday afternoon, and then we had Kung Fu, and then Saturday night would have been Starsky and Hutch.
It's Guy Ritchie.
Guy Ritchie.
Yeah.
We have another reboot coming later on this year, man. The Predator. So there's the blurb for this is from the outer reaches of space, the small town streets of suburbia, the hunt come home.
Doesn't sound like
Shane Black's
AVP2.
Explosive reinvention of the Predator series. We are looking at some lethal hunters, which are stronger, smarter, deadlier than ever before, and having genetically upgraded themselves with DNA from other species. When a young boy accidentally triggers their return to Earth, only a ragtag crew of ex-soldiers and a disgruntled science teacher can prevent the end of the human race.
Don't mess with those disgruntled.
Now, this is a
science
sequel
teachers.
to the 1987 sci-fi film Predator, which I think is quite interesting. And it's originally conceived as a reboot of the Predator franchise until Shane Black came on board and said he's making a sequel to the franchise and was dead.
Yeah.
You got Olivia Munn, who'll play the scientist opposite Holbrook's Special Forces Commando Jacob Tremblay, and he'll play the son of Holbrook's character. Any excitement for that, mate?
As well.
Yes, it has. Yeah,
that's
absolutely,
the only reason why I'm excited for it. I've got to be honest. I watched this trailer with a raised eyebrow, and I'm sounding negative on our first podcast, and I don't like it. There's a lot of things I love out there, but I've got a love for the 80s, and I've got a love for all of these things from the past, and I don't like it when they touch them. And I don't know, I saw this and I thought, this just looks a bit like AVP2 to me. Like, why? None of them seemed threatening to me, the main characters that are fighting these predators. I thought, well, they're going to get done in about 5 minutes.
I'm a big fan of the AVP movies. I'm not so keen on the Soul Predator.
Right, okay.
Strange, but I'm a massive Alien fan. So
yes.
So for me,
did you like Predators?
Yes.
See, because I enjoyed that. I thought it was a great concept
I
for me.
did.
Because I didn't twig that. I didn't get what was going on until that point where you see the two planets in the sky. I was like, holy cow! Like, what? This is amazing.
I really love those films. I like the fact that they're quite low budget.
Yeah.
It has an Alien 3 feel to it, which I really like.
I love Alien 3. I think it's so underrated, that movie. I really do. Yeah.
Oh, man. I'm just not a big fan of Aliens.
Well, number 2? Virtual high five here, because I think it's just Rambo in space.
There's too much snare drum. It just sounds like an Alien version of the A-Team.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
there's snare drum everywhere. Military feel to it. It's just too big, too noisy, too James Cameron.
Yeah, we got the first Alien film, which was this gritty, visceral horror,
dark, quiet, and haunting.
You can take the space.
3 has the same feel of that.
Yeah, and 4, even Resurrection, I think it goes a complete different tangent, but it's a Hollywood kind of gritty. You know, there's a weird product of the late 90s. I think things like The Cube and Dark City. It had that kind of feel to it. I don't know what it was.
Yeah.
But Aliens just felt like I say, Rambo in space. It was, let's put some machismo.
Michael Biehn again.
Yeah, let's put some bandanas on and some big guns and let's go fight these guys. And it lost what Alien was about. It didn't have that je ne sais quoi about it that Alien had.
I'm very, very, very eager to watch the last part of Ridley's trilogy, and then Alien will be number 4, and then that's it. I'm complete because I love Prometheus, and I really love the last Alien film as well, which is just stunning.
Covenant.
And so
I haven't seen Covenant yet.
I love it. So in terms of this Predator film, I'm not looking forward to that as much as actually I'm looking forward to Venom, which comes out in October. Because I think the trailer for Venom was pretty poor, but I'm kind of hoping that perhaps after the next Spider-Man movie, which I think is going to have a female protagonist, that Venom will be in the 3rd Spider-Man film as his opposite. So I'm really looking forward to.
So do you think they're going against? They're using a bit of bait and switch here, because it was revealed the other day that they said it wasn't in the same universe.
I'm hoping they bring it in because I'm hoping they bring it in. I hope so.
Maybe they're holding off on confirming anything until they see how successful Venom is, and they can reboot that idea. Because I didn't give it long when I said this before to someone, but just before Spider-Man went to Marvel, I said I don't give it long before that they buy up Fox or they buy up Sony and they start to get all these characters back that they want, and this has started to happen. Now, I think they've got a good deal with Sony. Sony know full well they can't give Spider-Man back fully because it's too much of a cash cow for them. But they know full well that the years have shown them they can't do anything with Spider-Man and make it right until now.
I think we're going to see Carnage in this movie as well.
No, I think he has been confirmed for it. And that's what they're holding back on. My only trepidation I have with this movie is the fact that there's been a lot of talk that Venom isn't in it until the last act. And it's more a film centred around Brock fighting the voice inside his head. And they've walked back on that and they've started adding some extra scenes in to try and... Because the scores weren't good, the test scores of some of the footage weren't good, and I think they're trying to walk back on that. But then that's what these things are for. I mean, if we're going to talk about reshoots and pickups and things, it happens with every movie. Look at Rogue One of the greatest Star Wars films ever made, if not up there at the top two. And the amount of work went onto that, reshoots and pickups and that. So it doesn't mean anything, and I'll wait until I see the final product. If that happens for Venom, then what we're going to essentially have is another Fantastic Four film where, when we really wanted to see those characters be who they are, film was over. Yeah, and there is talk of that being the case with it at the moment. So, like I say, I'm all for it. More power to them to make a film such as this. I do worry. I mean, it's the whole Deadpool thing, isn't it? Are they going to pander to the masses and make a Venom movie that's a PG-13? I think you're right, though. I think they may well be envisioning this film as a franchise apart from and unrelated to the upcoming Spider-Man movie in the works with Tom Holland. So this could be a totally separate thing altogether. It's just my own sort of fantasy. I know, we can all live those fantasies, mate. I mean, that's I live in the fantasy that every day I'm going to wake up to the news that there's a Knights of the Old Republic film being made. But that's not going to happen anytime soon. But yeah, it is the Fox thing, like you say. I mean, to use that analogy of Fantastic Four with it, they're all trying their best to do a Marvel, but unfortunately, Sony and Fox are using Marvel characters, and they've got to learn the only way they're going to make any money and any success out of these franchises is to relinquish some control. I don't mean all of it. Look what they've done with Spider-Man. It's brilliant. It's a Sony movie, Spider-Man Homecoming, and I can tell you what, it's the best Spider-Man film we've had, in my eyes. It's fabulous, isn't it? In my eyes. It's a John Hughes movie with some superheroes in it, and I'm cool with that. I'm down with that because it is fantastic. I know one film that you're really down with, mate, and I know you're excited to talk about is the Halloween movie that comes out in October with Jamie Lee Curtis returning to her iconic role. Do you know what upset me most about this when you sent me this link? What's that? Well, it's 40 years, because I remember H2O H20 coming out. And when you sent me this link, I went, oh, Halloween, new one, okay. Jamie Lee Curtis is back. 1978. Well, it was only a couple of years ago that she was in the last one, so what's this, the 25th anniversary? And then I realised it was actually 20 years ago that H2O come out, H20 come out. And then I suddenly had this existential crisis of, really, that is amazing. It's the only John Carpenter movie I've never seen. Halloween. The original. Yeah. I'm not a horror fan, mate. I've watched, in recent weeks, I've watched The Witch, which was a beautiful, stirring, haunting, New England sort of folk story. And I watched It recently. What do you think of that? I was disappointed that I didn't get as scared as I thought I would be, but I'm very, very pleased because I'm a huge fan of Stranger Things, and for me, this was just a continuation of the same vein, and that's why I loved it. I've got to be honest, it terrified me. I went with my friend to watch it. We saw a midnight showing. We went to the car park at the centre near us, the shopping centre near us, where the cinema is, and we had a little chat as you do before we parted ways, and all the lights were off in the car park. And as I was getting closer and closer to my car, I got faster and faster, and it was dark. And then I really scared myself. I jumped in, I locked the doors behind me, and I started my car up, and I shot straight out of that car park. I don't know what it was. It was always, with me, it's creepers. It happened with, it creeps up on me. It happened with, Blair Witch Project. I was, 14, 15 when that came out.
Yes.
And I watched it at a friend's house in the middle of the day. We had the curtains shut, and I watched it, and I was like, oh, that was cool. That wasn't that scary. And I walked home from his house to mine, 14 years old, across this dark field. And the same thing happened. I was getting faster and faster. It started playing on my mind. And that's what these films do to me. It's not when I'm watching them, it's afterwards. And it was I really enjoyed it. But
have you seen a movie that's on Netflix now called It Follows?
No.
Don't watch that then.
No, I've heard of it.
Well, It Follows? Yeah, It Follows, yeah. Have you seen A Quiet Place?
No, I really went to see that myself the other night. But I thought against it because I like horror movies. But
I will go and see anything that's got aliens in it, as long as it's got a sci-fi twist to that.
Yeah. And that's why It Follows had it for me.
Clowns have never frightened me, so I thought, well, you know what? If I watch this, it's just a clown. And it's a bunch of kids. It has that kind of Goonies, Strangest Things.
Yeah, it does. It was enjoyable for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
It captured the era that it was intended for, and the people it was intended for. Now with Halloween, I implore you to go and watch it. To be honest, I like horror films, but I think a lot of them are a bit pants.
So Halloween was 78, 81 for Halloween 2. H2O in 1998 and Halloween Resurrection in 2002. I didn't know they'd made that many films, to be honest. But honestly, it's a shame because The Thing is one of my favourite movies, and I actually really like the reboot of that too. But this is the only film I've not seen of John Carpenter's.
Isn't the new Thing? Isn't that actually a prequel?
It probably.
I think as it ends, the person's running away from the base is actually what you see at the start of the John Carpenter one.
Right.
But I think that was intended to be kind of a little nuance there that you weren't supposed to notice unless you really picked up on it. It was one of them. So unless you looked into it, but no, I do implore you to watch Halloween because I think it's one of those that. What's an analogy I can use here? Scream, for instance. I love the Scream movies, right? And there's a reason I like them. It's because they were the first one of their kind. Scream got lampooned and done so many times, copied, that it became a parody of itself. Nobody can kind of put into context that was the first one that did it. It was the first real slasher movie of that generation.
The great sort of lampoon movie of Scream, if you like, and the horror films is a movie that I don't think a lot of people have probably seen. It's called Tucker and Dale versus Evil.
Great movie.
Which is an
That's
astounding
Alan Tudyk, isn't it?
Yeah, it's an astoundingly good film. Yeah. And if you want that kind of slasher, cabin in the woods comedy movie where
you wouldn't have that without Scream.
Well, probably wouldn't.
You wouldn't have Scream. You wouldn't have Scream, and you wouldn't have a lot of films we have now without Halloween, and that's why you've got to watch it. And the difference is Scream was real people. There was no real threat. If you actually look at it, it's not a horror movie. It's a thriller. It's a psychological thriller. There's this person stalking them and killing them. You can take the mask off, and it's just a film about a psychopath. Whereas Halloween, there's that supernatural element to it. I like the fact that Mike Myers will be 50 metres away and she'll turn a corner and he's suddenly the other end of the hall staring at that. They never explain it and they don't need to. That's the mystery of it, and that's what makes it fun. There's a great scene where she's walking home from school, and I think why I like this scene in Halloween is because it's daytime and you don't get that a lot in horror movies. It's always the darkness, the sound and everything. You watch a horror movie with the sound off, they're not scary. And she's walking home from school with her friend, and there's I think it's posters about people going missing and stuff. But anyway, she's walking home from school with her friend, and just in the background, in this bush, you just see him standing there. Mike Myers standing there. She turns, she kind of sees him, and she double takes and looks back, and he's gone. And that is terrifying.
Yeah,
because it's one of those things. If that happened to you, you'd think to yourself.
Oh, it's like when you're just about to go to bed, and you're just about to close the curtains. You look outside, there's someone standing looking at your window, and then close the curtains, and then you open the curtains to look again, and the guy's gone. And
that's it. That's Halloween through and through. Yeah. And that's why you've got to watch it. You've got one of them that I implore you to watch. Get back to me and you can only say, Andy, you're an idiot. It's terrible. Or
I'll give it a go, mate. I'll give it a go. Absolutely.
It's one of those. Like I say, I like horror films, but a lot of them are pants. There's a lot of films that are revered. The Wicker Man. I don't get it. I don't get why people like The Wicker Man. I prefer the Nicolas Cage.
I think it's because perhaps it is because it could possibly happen that there is a cult like that on some little island somewhere. Yeah,
but then if you want to watch that, you've got Hot Fuzz.
Well, indeed, absolutely, man. So another one of these, you wouldn't have Fantastic Beasts without J.K. Rowling's Harry Potter. Is we have another sequel coming, Fantastic Beasts and the Crimes of Grindelwald.
It's a crime of J.K. Rowling.
Yeah, this sequel takes place in the 1920s, shortly after Newt Scamander's capture of Grindelwald at the end of the first instalment. And in returning for the sequel, the characters Tina, which is played by Catherine Waterston, and Queenie, Alison Sudol, and Jacob, who is Dan Folder. And we've got a new guy in this film. We have Zoe Kravitz.
Yep.
Zoe Kravitz is expected to play a bigger role in this, but we're going to have perhaps Johnny Depp maybe playing a brief role in. He had a brief role, I think, in the first film. I'm not sure he's going to be this, but Jude Law portrays
Grindelwald.
Yeah.
Johnny Depp is Grindelwald.
He's Grindelwald, and Jude Law portray Dumbledore. Yeah, before he becomes the headmaster at Hogwarts.
So I'm okay. You go with this one. I'll let you have this one,
mate. This is a franchise that completely passed me by. Right. My children, I was hoping would inherit my books because I bought those volumes when they came out. I bought the black editions as well, the adult volumes. I thought was adult ones. Maybe they were just in black covers because it looked better for an adult reading.
That's what it was for. That was what it was for. People were embarrassed on trains and stuff. It was a thing they did. Harry Potter was. If it wasn't for that, I wouldn't read today.
Really?
I wouldn't. I met my wife. I was 13 years. I've been with her as of day before yesterday. And when we started living together, I was unemployed, and I'm a sucker for a bet. Anyone bets me something, I have to follow it through. And I didn't read nothing. And she was loving the Harry Potters, and we was on I think book 5 had just come out, the Order of the Phoenix. And she said to me, "You've got to read these. You've got to read these." And I was like, "No, it's not for me. It's not for me." She went, "Read them. Do yourself a favour and read them." I went, "No." She went, "I bet you 20 quid you can't read these by the end of the year." That was it. I was there. I was like, "No, I'm going to do this." And I sat down, and do you know what? I'd have paid her 5 times over for the enjoyment I got out of those books, for what those books taught me as an adult. That don't be closed-minded. Open your mind up to all these things, because there's a world of fun out there. There's a world of stories that need to be told and need to be read. I started writing my own book, my own young adult book, because of Harry Potter and because I read it. And it changed my life, and it really did change. It's one of those, it changed my life reading Harry Potter. It turned me into someone completely different with my views and outlooks on books and stories and yeah, then, I'd seen a couple of the movies, and even that, there's not many things I can switch off and go and say, no, I'm thinking of those characters from the films in my head as I'm reading. That didn't happen. J.K. Rowling weaved this tapestry of just so much beauty and magic, and the films I enjoy for a different reason. I watch them and I go, yeah, these are good. They've captured the magic, pardon the pun, they captured the magic.
Do you think that was because she was on set the whole time?
Yeah, I know. There's a story with that where J.K. Rowling was sitting in a room. She's got all these heads of Warner Brothers around her, and they said, "We want to do this, we want to do that." And they stopped and they looked at her and said, "Is that okay?" Why are you asking me? You know, she's like, I just wrote these books. Like, you're the guy. And I was like, yeah, but you wrote them. You made this world. And that's how special they are. They, you know, they're looking at this, at the time, this middle-aged lady that had no real experience in writing. She's just wrote these books because she was in the middle of a depression in her life. And, you know, she created this universe that is comparable to the greats of Tolkien and Lucas, and it is. I mean, I don't feel bad saying that because the figures speak for themselves. I think,
yeah, I totally agree.
It may not be your wheelhouse, but you can't deny the success. The first author to make over $1 billion.
Oh, she's like, first billionaire.
Yeah, it doesn't happen, and there's a reason for that. It's because of what she created. Now, over the last few years, this is a bit of a. She's let me down. She walks back on a lot of things she says. She's trying to be too PC for her own good. Oh no! You know, there is a transgender person in Hogwarts. Now I'm so open minded. I don't care if there is. I don't care if there's not. But don't start trying to shoehorn these things in now after the fact. And that's bothering me. Everything has got a reason. She's saying, no, this didn't happen. No, Harry and Hermione didn't stay together afterwards. This happened. You haven't got to do this, JK. Just continue to build the stories where they're needed. And it upset me when I watched Fantastic Beasts. I was so stoked for Fantastic Beasts. I was like, more of this. I get to see more. She's not giving up. We're not getting Harry Potter. That's fine. I don't need more Harry Potter. I want more of the Wizarding world. And then I went to see Fantastic Beasts, and that's the only time in the last 10 years, I can honestly say I fell asleep in the cinema. I was so disappointed, and I walked out of there. And my wife, I mean, she's the Harry Potter fan. We collect the books. We've got signed first editions. We're big book collectors in this house. She's met J.K. Rowling at a Q&A that I got her tickets for. She loved it. She said, yeah, it was great, but it wasn't Harry Potter. And she said, but I can enjoy the world that it was. You know, it was more Harry Potter, but I just didn't get it. I just did not get this movie. And then I think my problem with it is of all the places you can go, you're doing this, and it's wrong. And it's kind of the thing I have with Solo. I'm excited for it, but it's not necessary. Of all the things you can do in the Star Wars universe, why are you doing that story that we don't necessarily need? And that, to me, is what Fantastic Beasts is. It was a case of you're trying to make some money here, and you're doing it off of something that's familiar rather than taking a gamble. And that bothers me. That really does bother me. And there's nothing about this Fantastic Beasts 2 that excites me. And it's such a shame to say it, because it would be like for you, a Star Wars movie coming out and you sitting there and going, oh, I'm not bothered about it. How would you feel if you were sitting there with Solo going, I really don't care? It'd break your heart. It would.
Yeah. We're going to go into this subject of crossovers where, you know, what computer game, console game would make a great movie.
Yeah.
But going the opposite way, do you think there could be a fantastic Harry Potter game for PS4 and Xbox without it being Lego?
They've only got to make Bully, mate. That's what they've got to do. I don't know if you played Bully. I think Canis Canem Edit it's called as well on the PS2. Mm-hmm. It was a game about a boy in school, a boarding school. That's what you want. You want this, you know, you make a character, you go into Hogwarts, you get put in your house, and you have to go through your classes, you have to go through, but there can be an underlying story with that. You know, there can be an underlying story that you get to a certain point and there's a quest you have to go on with the skills you've built up. And, you know, there is definitely room for more Harry Potter and for more Wizarding World. But this ain't it. These films ain't it. But I would love to see a game of that caliber. It doesn't have to be Harry Potter again, because she's weaved such a rich.
Could it work as a sort of a Zelda type game? Do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you've ever played any of the Harry Potter games that aren't Lego. They're not that bad. They're okay little platformers. But but they're just movie franchise tie-ins, and they never seem to do that well, because they're pushed out quickly with no development time given, so that they can get it out in time for the film to be released.
Sure,
and
yeah.
There's always a, suffers from a bit of fast programming there and that, where they leave a few bits in that shouldn't be in there and that. But there is definitely room, and I think now's the time for it, because Harry Potter is one of those entities like Star Wars, like Lord of the Rings. They can make anything and release it at any point in it and make money.
Well, they could do a Battlefront 2 where you've got the story mode, and then an open world type scenario where you've got your rival magicians fighting each other out. That'd be great, wouldn't it?
Let's be honest. You're talking about wizards. I mean, you can go back well before the four founders of Hogwarts, and well before the brothers with the Deathly Hallows, and you can go all the way back. You could have the original like druidic wizards fighting, dark wizards and light wizards. You could have anything like that in there. I mean, essentially, let's be honest. It is the reason why Harry Potter does so well is because it is Star Wars and it is Lord of the Rings. It's the hero's journey. There's the wise old wizard. There's the rogue that's with them. There's the heroine. They are the same. There's the magical item. You've got the light. You've got the force. You've got the magic. You've got the ring. There's all these comparisons that you can draw from all three, but it's how you tell that story. I can't remember who it was. There was somebody said there's 7 types of story in this world.
It's 5.
Five types of story in this world.
The hero, you have the princess, you have the guy who says, take this on your quest, and you have the protagonist, and then you have,
There's 5 different types of story, but it's how you tell them.
Absolutely, yeah.
And that's where it all boils down to, is the way it's written, the person who writes it. And that's what I always say about Lucas, and controversial point. I don't think the guy is a great director. I think he's a fantastic Imaginarian and storyteller, and I think he's probably one of the best there's ever been. These things he creates in his head is unparalleled. But that's why the best Star Wars films, in my eyes, are the ones that he didn't direct.
Absolutely. I think the software company that would do this really well, if they were going to do a Harry Potter game, would be probably Blizzard, that do Overwatch.
Yeah.
Where, again, scenario, city, town, you're going to fight in, you pick your characters, who you're going to have. I think they could do a really good,
Rockstar would be one of my choices, because obviously they did Bully.
Right, okay.
You look at a world like GTA or Red Dead Redemption. There's room there. There's room for an open world type Harry Potter game, but with those same sort of elements. Maybe a PvP arena game, battle arena game. You build a wizard and you can go in against other players and go from there. Loot and quests and fighting with guilds, and you could. There's room for Harry Potter in gaming for a more mature audience, I think.
So I think for me, if I was going to pick a couple of games that would do a good crossover, I would definitely pick Overwatch as being one of those. I don't know if you've seen it or played it.
I think some of it, yeah.
Somehow they could turn that into a movie. Knights of the Old Republic.
Yes.
And I think they could manage a Zelda.
I like your point here, and when you mentioned this to me earlier, do you know what I like most about it? Zelda doesn't speak.
I think it would work brilliantly.
It would be. I would love to see a film where the protagonist isn't the one doing all the talking.
Wouldn't it be awesome?
He's always being led. He's always being told, let's do that. You've got to go here. You've got to do that, and he just does it. And all you've got is the hiya, and that's it. He wouldn't.
Would you want something like Zelda to be done in the sort of Final Fantasy type of, the new sort of CGI,
realistic CGI?
Yeah.
No, I'd like Zelda to be done live action.
I think that would work really well, wouldn't it?
With a
Peter Jackson.
There's no other choice. Let's be honest. I mean, the man.
That's a Peter Jackson movie, that, isn't it?
Not many people could get away with doing the job that he did on Lord of the Rings.
He could do that. It sounds like, I'm really looking forward to what Favreau is going to be doing with the Star Wars universe. Yeah. With this sort of 7 years after Yavin, Battle of Yavin. Endor. Is it Battle of Yavin? Battle of Endor. Yeah, after Battle of Endor, isn't it?
Yeah.
But I think Knights of the Old Republic by these two guys from Game of Thrones. If that's not what they're doing,
Benioff and Weiss, yeah.
I think, that's got to be it.
This is my point. I don't think we're going to get a Knights of the Old Republic.
I think we'll get something
in that in that era. You're not going to get. Oh, we're making Knights of the Old Republic.
Well, if we get Darth Bane,
cool.
Or Revan perhaps in there.
If it's Revan, I will queue for my tickets now for 3 years' time. I will be there waiting.
Do you not think, because in the Star Wars Black Series 6-inch figures, they brought out Darth Revan a couple of years ago, and I did think, well, he's a fan favourite, but maybe there's something in that.
Well, I own that figure.
So do I. Absolutely.
There is something there, and I was going to talk to you about this, and I think this is somebody the other day put on one of the collecting groups. Do you think they're ever going to make a Kanan and a Ezra and a Zeb Black Series?
Well, they've made a Kanan.
They've made a Kanan. And I think the reason why they're holding off on that is because we're going to see him somewhere else. And I think that's what Hasbro are doing. I think Disney have probably turned around to him and said, look, hold your horses, don't release this yet, because we've got ideas for these guys in the future. We've had Hera come out, and the reason I think we've had Hera come out is because we all know, we've spoke about it, we're going to see her soon somewhere. I wouldn't be surprised if it's very soon.
And very possibly in this Jon Favreau series.
Exactly. She could even be the protagonist, and they're getting that ball rolling with her. They know she's a fan favourite. But I feel like we haven't seen the last of Ezra, and we haven't seen the last of Kanan, and I think that they're going to turn up in one of these properties that is being bumped around. We might get a live action something with some of the Rebels guys in it. It won't be Rebels, obviously. And let's be honest, can we say spoilers on here?
Go ahead.
About Rebels, Kanan, obviously, he's no longer with us.
No.
That doesn't mean anything in Star Wars. We know that. It doesn't mean that we're not going to get a Kanan Force Spirit pop up somewhere. So yeah, I mean, right off the beaten track here with it, but I think, yeah, we're not done with that. And I think with the Benioff and Weiss thing, this is my point about like the Harry Potter. They've got every avenue to explore. They don't have to, nothing's canon anymore of certain things. None of the Knights of the Old is canon, is it? Apart from Bane's canon, isn't it? But why keep Bane canon? Why, out of all the things there, why say that's canon but the other bits aren't? And it's because they've not finished with those stories. They've got things to tell. They got rid of Thrawn, but they said not these parts of Thrawn. These parts are still there, and then they used it, and they're still building on that. And I think we're going to look at the next few years. Benioff and Weiss is going to be something. You don't hire them to write something that's contemporary. You hire them to do something that's set in
the beauty now of
and sandals.
Yeah, the beauty now of media is that we have so many platforms to watch this on. Whether it's an Amazon Prime, whether it's a Netflix series, whether it's cinema release. So.
Well, it'll all be Disney's own streaming service.
We have that coming.
Yeah.
So the possibilities are just phenomenal, mate, aren't they?
Yeah,
so what are your conversions then? Movies to games.
Mine? Right, okay. So I messaged you, didn't I, in a way? I said to you, think of something modern, let's think of something retro. Right. So I have two. My first, and I said TV or film, because I think these days there isn't much of a difference. Where it used to be a case of if you wanted something big budget, you'd do film. If you was happy with subpar CGI, you'd do a TV series. But there's no difference these days. In fact, look at Game of Thrones. It looks better than most of the films out there.
Oh, man. Each episode is an epic. It's epic, isn't it, each episode?
Yeah. It's
movie in itself.
Phenomenal. But my first one, for modern, was Mass Effect. And I'd like to see that possibly as a TV show if it was done with the same grandeur and the same scope of like.
Was Mass Effect
Westworld?
Was Mass Effect a graphic novel before a game, or game then graphic novel?
I'm sure it was a game then graphic novel.
Okay.
And then there has been a movie.
On Dark Horse,
Prinze
I think.
Jr.
Is it Dark Horse? Did they release that?
It might have been. I couldn't tell without pretending. But Freddie Prinze Jr. was in an animated film of Mass Effect as the main character. Mm-hmm. We all know he's a great voice actor. But yeah, I would like to see
possibly a good Ezra.
He'd be a fantastic Ezra, especially a bit older, wouldn't he? Yeah. But Mass Effect as a TV show done on the scale, and what I mean the scale of Game of Thrones and Westworld and stuff, is what I was saying to you earlier about that finite story, that ending. I don't want to see a Mass Effect TV series where one episode Commander Shepard's just worried about this attack on his ship by someone and something happening and this big furry creature coming. I don't want to see that. I don't want to see individual storylines for an episode, Monster of the Week episodes. I don't want to see that. I want to see a cohesive, grand scale, the Reapers coming. They are, you've got the story of the 3 Mass Effect games. The Reapers are coming from somewhere in deep space to annihilate most of existence in this reoccurring cycle that happens every few thousand years. I want to see that with Sauron being sovereign, hiding his identity as sovereign and making this all happen, and Shepard having to go out there and stop it. I'd like to see that in a cohesive 4 or 5 series, 10 episodes a season story. And that's what I want to see. I don't want to see, you can't shoehorn that into 2 hours because it doesn't work. And we've seen that with a lot of things. Dune, for example, this big old book, shoehorned into an hour and a half. It makes no sense unless you've read the book. I want to see that with Mass Effect. I want to see this 50-hour epic space opera, neo-techno visual masterpiece that punches you in the face. I want to see the Geth. I want to see the Turian. I want to see them all. I want to see this almost Star Wars scale. These aliens, these creatures, I want to see it all. But
what's the best platform to play Mass Effect on?
Xbox 360. Right.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was ported in my eyes. People may say different, but obviously, I've in the past I used to have everything. These days, being a parent, I don't get to have everything. So I'm predominantly PlayStation now, and obviously, we're lucky that the rights have lapsed and it's on there now because Andromeda is not a good game. But if you get to play Mass Effect 2 especially, you've got to play through 1 to get the story, but if you get to 2, it's possibly one of the greatest games ever made. Story-wise, have you ever played them? I
was very into Halo, which those films suck.
Beyond the Reach, is it? Is it on?
Beyond the Reach, Nightfall, I think was the last one.
They have a ring of a web series, don't they? About
but no, that's I'm all in, mate. That sounds fantastic. I have got the hardcover volume 1 and 2, I think, of Mass Effect, and they're still shrink wrapped, so I haven't actually read those yet. So what's your next choice?
It would be your wheelhouse, I can assure you that. The retro ones. Now, I did at first put Toe Jam and Earl, because I think that would be a fun movie, a kids movie. If you could get Illumination to do it, it'd be great. I don't know if you ever played it.
I haven't, no.
Yeah, two cool aliens that ships crash landed on Earth, and they've got to get the pieces back to fly back home to Funkatron. Says it all, really.
That works. Yeah, that's great.
One I would love to see, and I think this because it needs the attention, is a little game by Delphine Software from 1991. Do you have any clue? No.
Go on.
Another World.
Oh my goodness! What was the main character called in that?
He was Lester Knight Chaikin.
Oh yes.
He was a physicist, and he was playing on his particle accelerator. And and after a freak thunderstorm, a wormhole opens up and dumps him on a barren planet.
That was played PS2, I think. That was
the original. Wasn't it? There was this game come out in 91, so it was originally on the Mega Drive. And then I remember there was a remake. Eric Chahi, the guy who actually made the game. It was back then when it was one developer. There was other people worked on it, but it was mostly this guy. He did the footwork. And Eric Chahi, I think it was a 20-year anniversary in 2001. It might have been a 25 in 2006. He remastered it from the ground up, so it was a full orchestral score rather than 8-bit chiptune, or 16-bit. And he spent the time and made it. It's not as good. I've got to be fair, it's not as good. If you ever get to play the original on Mega Drive, it's the best way of playing it. But it's what they did for that time it was the first time I'd ever seen it in a game. It wasn't about the gameplay, it was about the story. It had this feel about it. This guy, I mean, the visuals anyway, to start off with, this beautiful retroscoped guy running across the screen and stuff. It was mad. I'd never seen anything like it. I mean, it was grainy, you can't see his face, but it was beautiful all the same. They had this aura that come out of the screen. And the best thing about it is the way they did the levels. It didn't follow him. As he moves, you never knew what was going to happen on that next screen until you went on there. And it always left you with an air of complete immersiveness. You as Lester, you didn't know what was happening. He didn't know where he was. It was the puzzles. It was the fact that you only had one gun, but it did 3 different things. It was so clever. It's a short game, albeit it's a bit of a shame that I think if you sit down and play it, you could probably get through it in about half an hour if you know what you're doing. But regardless, it would make a great film because you could put so much more into that. You could explore the world a bit more. You could have a few moments with Lester being all on his own and scared. You could make his mate Buddy that you meet. That'd be great to see. It's got to be Vin Diesel playing him, and I'm not watching it otherwise. But yeah, I mean, anything by Delphine, because the honourable mention there obviously is Flashback, because that was their almost spiritual successor to it. And yeah, that would make a great film as well. So, but yeah, what yours?
Well, I think Knights of the Republic, Zelda, and Overwatch.
Oh, yeah.
I think going to a crossover games though. I mean, I watched the Warcraft movie, and I really liked it because I'm a big fan of Jones. I think he's a cracking director, but that had a lot of money bunged into it, and it didn't do particularly well at the box office. And I think that's why I probably have a little bit of hesitation, perhaps, that Another World might not do quite as well as you'd hope.
No, it wouldn't. Because
it is very niche.
Yeah. That's what I say. I mean, it's such a hard thing.
Yeah.
With this, because you make a game from the past, which is where they benefit most of a movie, because it wasn't about storytelling; it was about gameplay and fun.
But who'd have thought that Mario Brothers would have made from that game you'd get a movie out of it?
I love that
film. Who'd have thought?
But yeah, that's it. You've got those films from anything. Do
you remember the Pac-Man cartoon series?
Yes, I do.
I mean, who'd have thought that?
Yeah.
But for anything it's really possible, man. It's just.
But it is. But unfortunately, these days, do games that are made now, do contemporary games, need movies? I don't think they do, because they already tell a story and it's more immersive. When I'm playing The Last of Us, it's telling this story of Joel, and you see his daughter get killed at the start, and it's horrible. You're sitting there going, oh my God, and as a father, my heart's racing in my chest. And then it cuts forward and he's taking this Ellie across the country to hopefully save mankind. And the story is so rich. Why does it need a movie? In fact, by making a movie, you're taking yourself out of the fear and the all the emotion of it. You're just watching it, and part of the fun of these things is playing it. Part of the reason why they're so immersive is when you're creeping through and you can hear those clickers going, you're pooping yourself. You're sitting there going, oh my God, I can't. And that's why I think films like Tomb Raider don't do what you didn't need that Tomb Raider movie, because you've got the game, and the game does enough. It does enough for the storytelling. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. Are they necessary? Is the question, really, these days especially.
Well, they'd be running seriously out of ideas if they had to rely on computer games to give them ideas for movies. But I think there's still ample possibilities forthcoming for. So, I mean, Mass Effect, man, that's a cracking idea. I think that would work incredibly well. Even if you didn't know it was a computer game, I think the storyline of that is wild, mate. You know, yeah, I think that's the best one of the lot. I think personally, I can see that happening more so than probably anything else. But again, you know, there's been the Final Fantasy movies. And they've been a huge hit in Japan and in the anime world. Appleseed, have you seen any of those films?
I've heard of them, not seen them. No, I'm not.
Yeah, I don't know if they were games, but yeah, certainly a good little list there, dude.
Yeah.
So what's on your Netflix list then? What's on your Netflix to watch? You've seen Annihilation, have you?
No. Altered Carbon and Annihilation are both high on my list.
Lost in Space.
Again, that was something I grew up on. I haven't got around to watching this. Do you know when you just don't feel like you don't have enough days in the week and just can't get around to anything at the moment?
My girlfriend says to me often, when do you get the time to watch these things? But I tend to sort of get them downloaded onto my phone, and when I'm waiting to pick the children up from school, I tend to sort of watch an episode that way. I will watch Lucifer on Amazon Prime, which unfortunately they've just announced that they're not going to renew that series, which is a cracking shame. I absolutely loved that series. It's absolutely amazing. What about the MCU series? Have you all caught up on?
No, and this is exactly why, and I think you just hit the nail on the head with the cancellation. Now, this going back to what I was saying earlier about Arrow and Flash. I can't do it anymore. I've invested too much time over the years, and I've got disillusioned that I can invest 5 or 6 years in something, and then all of a sudden they'll go, I'm not doing it anymore. And it happened with Terra Nova. I don't know if you ever watched that. We watched that together, me and my wife. We loved it. And it ended on this huge cliffhanger, and then they go, we're not making it anymore. And I think with me now, I like to binge watch it. We're in that binge watching ethos of people these days. It's changed a lot viewing. I mean, you see.
Well, I think Altered Carbon will be high. I think you should really get into that.
And I want to watch it all in one go, and that's what I want to do. And I'd rather wait until the series. I did it with Breaking Bad. When Breaking Bad had done and the hype had died down, I sat and I watched the whole thing back to back, and it's one of the greatest TV shows I've ever seen. You know, but I wasn't going to invest my time before it had done.
Where are you at on Blade Runner in 2049?
I got 25 minutes in, and I was bored. I fell asleep, and I haven't continued it since.
I think Altered Carbon will put you in that world of Blade Runner to a degree, but it's gripping and it's exciting and it's fantastic. So I'd highly recommend that.
I do want to see it, and I actually quite like him, Joel Kinnaman, isn't it?
It is, yeah. He's great.
I liked him. Great. I saw him in. Is it Run All Night?
What was it? It was
Liam Neeson. That was good.
Yeah. Was he in some Norwegian or Danish TV show as well? He was in, which is pretty big. Was it Fallen or The Fall or something? It
was Rick Flag as well, wasn't he? In Suicide Squad. I mean, he's a good little actor, and everything I saw about Altered Carbon had the little hairs on the back of my neck standing up. Same as Lost in Space. But honestly, it's just time of day. I mean, I work 14-hour days. I come home, put my daughter to bed, have dinner. By that time, it's 8:30. It's 8 o'clock some nights, and you're like, okay, I'm ready to go to bed. You know, so it's the weekend. You know, it is weekends roll around. You spend it with your kids, and the next thing you know, it's Monday.
The good thing about Altered Carbon is it's only 10 episodes.
Is it really? No, that does actually. Yeah,
that's something fantastic. The Expanse. Is another great series. They just started another series of that, so on series 2 of The Expanse. And that's, again, it's quite epic in length. So I would give that a wide berth.
What about you? Have you been cracking on with anything you watch?
Well, I rewatched Annihilation. Really loved that. I'm going to watch the new series of 3%.
3%.
Yeah, it's a sort of grimy near future world. 20-year-olds streamed to a sleep testing facility to compete for a spot in an idyllic land known as the offshore.
That sounds brilliant. Yeah.
It's rather good.
Okay.
Black Mirror, have you checked out?
I've seen some of Black Mirror, yes. I've seen the, not the newer ones. I've seen some of the older ones. When they was on Channel 4, I think, weren't they? Back then?
They were.
Yeah.
There's another series of, what else is that I'm watching? I'm trying to think. Oh, another series which is really good is Salvation, which I watched that last week.
I've seen the trailers for that.
It's an asteroid on collision course with Earth, and the grad student, tries to sort of sort that out.
Yeah.
Which is really hard to sort of not give anything away. I'm gonna get back into Gotham.
Didn't do
because
it,
I think after the second series I gave that a little bit of a miss, and I thought, well, I'll get back into that, I think. I think at the moment, I think that's about it. I think I keep a very close eye on what's coming on Netflix in terms of sci-fi and fantasy. And so there's another series of Voltron, which I'll definitely check out.
Nice.
And the last thing that I'm going to try and watch is One Punch Man, which is a...
I saw that on there the other day. It's just come on Netflix, hasn't it, I think? Yeah.
Yeah, it has.
Yeah.
So, and I watched Monkey King.
Any good?
I've only watched one episode, and it's not bad at all, mate.
I do like that story. I like the original, to be fair. You know, born from an egg on a mountaintop and all that. But yeah. Yeah.
It's one of those series that I would love to have on Blu-ray. I would love to watch that with with better quality, because
would it suffer though from the better quality? I think some things do sometimes. Don't they?
I just remember it being very very grainy, and like they'd sent the video from over in the on a ship, and eventually it was on BBC Two, wasn't it?
Oh, man.
I can't remember what channel it was. Was it on Channel 4?
It was on mainstream. It was probably Channel 4. That would be their usual wheelhouse.
The water margin. I remember the water margin perhaps being on BBC. I can't remember now. But anyway.
A long time ago.
Mate, that's a fantastic, So, yeah, Monkey.
Yeah, cool. I did see that on there.
The rest of that.
Yeah, cool.
So we'll catch up next week on more games, more arcade madness. I don't know if you're an arcade guy, but I certainly was. So we should be talking some Defender and some of those machines. And
I'm one of those people out there may hate me, but it's emulation. I was at the wrong time. Arcades were dying out by the time I was a kid. I remember playing Mortal Kombat, Rampage. I played at the Arcade Gallery. I've played all the greats. But they weren't a thing. Yeah, they weren't a thing. They were because I was at the seaside, and they just so happened to have a couple of them now. It wasn't like you could just go down to the arcade. We didn't.
So my proposal on our next episode is talking about martial art movies and beat 'em ups. So we've got the likes of Soul Calibur 2 and Mortal Kombat.
I can talk about the beat 'em ups. I can't talk about the martial arts movies. So that sounds cool.
Well,
we can
have a little go on that, and more sci-fi and retro business.
Always sci-fi and retro. There's always time for it. Yeah, totally, man. Thank you. It's I think we need to give a little shout out to Mr. Rob Wade as well.
Indeed,
while
we do.
we're here.
So we're both part of Talk Star Wars.
Yeah.
And the Commonwealth, and highly recommend to go onto your Podbeam or your iTunes podcast and subscribe to all of the Commonwealth.
Yeah, Emotionally 14, the Gamecast. We've got Tumbling Saber, Skyhoppers,
Generation X-Wing,
San Diego Sabres,
indeed.
Radio podcast.
And forthcoming to Talk Star Wars Toy Box with yours truly.
Yeah, it's making its triumphant return, is it? Yeah,
it certainly is.
Yeah, good stuff. Well, this has been long but fun. I've very much enjoyed it.
Indeed, mate.
Yeah.
So, Adam S. signing out.
And Andy S signing out too. There you go. Thank you very much. Cheers.
Look forward to you lot guys joining us next time.
Next time. Cheers. Bye.